right, let's get some analysis on this from the Iranian side and speak to Mohammad Marandi. He's a professor at Tehran University. Professor Marandi, good to have you with us. So some are seeing this as a compromise by Iran. Now, why would that be so when the United States broke the deal in the first place?
Well, first, I'd like to point out that Jake Sullivan is not being very honest. It's the United States that left the deal. The United States, from the very beginning, even under Obama, never implemented the deal properly. And as we speak, the United States continues to pursue Donald Trump's policy of maximum pressure, which is directed at women and children. Of course, this is understandable from the likes of Jake Sullivan, because Jake Sullivan, in an email on February the 12th, 2012, told Hillary Clinton that in Syria, Al-Qaeda is on our side. So he's not exactly a man of principles. For Iran, what is important is that the nuclear deal is implemented. And Iran has been implementing the nuclear deal over the past few years, even though the United States has not been, and neither have the Europeans. In fact, Iran's withdrawal from the implementation of the additional protocol is because that was a part of the deal. And Iran is saying, if you're not going to implement anything, then we're no longer going to implement anything. So we're only following their lead, but with a very long delay. So over the last few years, when they've been violating all of the agreement, for a number of years, we were abiding by the agreement in full. And then gradually, we decreased our commitments until the point we've reached today. So we're just reaching where they've been all along, where they've been in non-compliance, and now we are not going to abide by our commitments. But Iran has reached this agreement, if Parliament doesn't go against it, in order to show that Iran has goodwill and to give some time to the Americans to start the move towards implementation. But the Iranians do not believe that the Americans are sincere in any way or form.
No, perhaps not, Mr. Marandi, but that is, as you say, a gesture of goodwill. It perhaps brings some diplomatic breathing room to the negotiations and gives 3 months. Now, if there isn't anything done in those 3 months, what comes next? Because, of course, it is the Iranian people that are suffering under these sanctions.
True, but there is an issue of principle here, and that is that Iran has negotiated a nuclear deal for years. And the Americans under Obama, and Biden was his vice president, agreed to that. So the Americans, if there is going to be an agreement, it has to be this agreement. Iran won't accept any changes. Because if Iran accepts changes, that's appeasement. And that would only be sending a message to Washington that if you behave in a thuggish manner, you will get more and more concessions. So we can't go down that road. It is a never-ending road. If the United States does not respect what it has already agreed to do, then how can we ever expect it to abide by its future commitments? So the only way forward is for the current agreement to be implemented. Doing anything other than that is a very dangerous road and will only make the regime in Washington more aggressive. So it's either this deal or no deal. And it's tough for Iranians. But the Iranians, on the other hand, they have their own cards to play. The Iranians can move the nuclear program forward at a very rapid pace. And the Americans know this. That's why they sent the head of the IAEA to Tehran, because they're concerned about that.
So is it going to get to that point of brinkmanship where Iran decides to accelerate its nuclear program with the view of what, getting a nuclear weapon?
No, I don't believe that Iran ever had the intention of acquiring a nuclear weapon. And I think that was always American and Western propaganda in order to keep Iran back. If Iran truly wanted a nuclear weapon, it would have obtained a nuclear weapon. It would have built a nuclear weapon years ago. We know how sophisticated Iranian technology is, how the Iranians have been able to keep the Americans, back because of their military capabilities. The Iranians have the means and the technology to acquire a weapon, but they've never chosen to do so because they don't want a weapon. But the nuclear program is a part of Iran's sovereignty. And the Americans cannot take that from Iran, and Iran will not allow the Americans to take it. But the Iranians are showing goodwill, just as they've done in the past. So ultimately, the Iranians are saying, look, if you are sincere, all you have to do is reverse Trump's presidential decrees. It's just all Biden needs is a pen. If he does that, then most of the problem is solved. But as we see, the Americans continue to go down the same road as Trump, because the United States is not a country that is looking to solve the problem. it's a problem. It is a country that wants to maintain its hegemony, and it will do so through whatever means necessary. In Yemen, they'll strangle the population. In Syria, they'll support extremists. In Libya, they'll destroy the country. The Americans are ruthless. In Venezuela, they'll impoverish people. But again, Iran is not a weak country. It is a powerful country, and the Americans recognize that they cannot get what they want, and they have to accept reality in Tehran.
And finally then, Professor Marandi, how much of what is happening now and the slight delays that have been put in place, that extra 3 months, in line with domestic politics in both countries? Perhaps time for the US Biden administration to bed in properly. And of course, there are elections coming in Iran in the coming months.
Well, I don't think Biden has any serious problems. Biden, if he wanted to do it, he had the political capability to do so. This is simply an excuse being made in Washington by the American media, by think tanks, in order to justify Biden's continued brutal policy towards women and children in Iran. It is inhumane, it is barbaric, and it is unacceptable. But, that's how things work in the West. But with regards to Iran, Iran is giving this extra time. It is going to be a political issue in the country because there are those who are saying enough is enough. The Americans are not sincere. We have to start increasing the pressure. And there are those who are saying, let us give them more time and see what happens. And maybe the pressure will ultimately bring about changes in Washington. In any case, no matter who benefits from this debate or whoever wins the debate, at the end of the day, it's either this deal, the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, or no deal. Iran will not accept anything added to it. It will not accept anything being removed from it. And it will not include other topics for discussion in addition to it. It is this deal or no deal.
Okay, Professor Mohammad Marandi from Tehran University. Appreciate your analysis, sir. Thanks for being with us.